Yo everybody, what's good? They got a new patch note for Overwatch 2, the April Fool's update. These aren't actually implemented in the game, they're in a special arcade game mode where you can play these out. The first change is that all heroes have new ultimate voice lines, and they keep 50% of their ultimate charge when swapping heroes. This is really good for the limited time arcade mode because there's been a lot of changes. Alright, and you're going to be using the ultimates more so that way you can hear the voice line and then probably swapping to a different hero to try them out. You gain ultimate charge 10% faster, which again is really good because you're going to want to try out all the different voice lines. The hero that gets the final blow on a tank gains significant amount of ult charge. So there's just a lot of more ultimate charge in the game in general. And remember, this is arcade game mode, so all the tanks also have 200 less HP, or something like that. The damage roll passive, heal 50 health on elimination. This seems realistic. Like this would be a better roll passive than the reload buff on elimination. And this would probably be a better passive as well than the healing yourself after being out of combat for a little bit for the support passive. Gain 30% increased movement speed for 4 seconds when reaching low health. It's only for 4 seconds as well, so I thought it was as long as you're low. I assume that they still have the same passives, and these are just added on to it. For Doom, you're only going to see this change when he gets Empowered Fist. And when he Seismic Slams, he does 25 more damage, and enemies hit by the shockwave are launched into the air. I feel like this is a really realistic change that might go through to the actual game. But when they're knocked up into the air, it's like hilariously high. So this would not realistically make it into the game, not with the height placed onto it, because they get bounced really high into the air. After deflecting a the Empowered Fist can also level a skyscraper or open a glass jar in a single attempt. It turns out that the beams used to destroy projectiles also really hurt when used on people. After deflecting a projectile, Defense Matrix deals 30 damage to enemies within its area of effect over 1 second. So if you're inside of Defense Matrix and you're shooting, like you're a soldier or a tracer, you'll take 30 damage while you're inside of it. Everyone will, not just you. And then killing an enemy with Defense Matrix grants additional 5% ult charge to D.Va. Junker Queen yells so loud she damages the eardrums of her foes. Don't worry though, it's still a friendly shout of encouragement for her allies. It applies a blade effect to enemies in range when activated. You know, that goes into her passive. It's really a fantasy, like it doesn't make sense, but also that might be a good change that gets implemented as well, since Queen is one of the lower tanks. It is believed that the threat of Orisa's aerial body slam is the biggest climbed tyrant in Numbani. Alright, while in the air, Orisa can go wherever she wants with Javelin Spin. So you Javelin Spin, and then jump, and then you can look up, and you'll go up, left and right, you'll go left and right. And then Fortify, it increases falling speed and deals damage in an area when Orisa lands on the ground. So it's a body slam. Ramatra is a lot more effective when he's in Nemesis form, so he'll stay like that until everyone has suffered as much as he has. Omnic form's disabled. He's always in Nemesis form. Bonus armor is decreased to 125, so he has 300 health. That's 425 with the armor. He can use Void Barrier now, and block has a 1-second cooldown when disengaged. This is another good change. Like this block change, whereas a 1-second cooldown when disengaged. I feel like that's a really good change. Reinhardt! Honor, glory! I couldn't charge the enemies that were in the air, so I asked Torbjorn to help me out. Now I am the ultimate crushing machine, even in the sky! Charge now grants flight. Hold jump to float up, and crouch to go down. And also you could steer way better. When I saw this in game, I felt like Reinhardt was a lot slower, which might have been a placebo effect. So, in order to further align Rodog as a tank who punishes bad positioning, we've increased the range of Hook to make all positioning bad positioning. Range increased by 50%. So, you know, no matter where you are on the map, he can hook you. Developer comment. Gravitic energy is quite potent. If it's strong enough to lift a giant rock, it can lift anyone. Accretion. When you're hit by this, you're knocked back as normal, and then you have low gravity for 4 seconds, so you'll start floating into the air. And the cooldown is reduced, so that way you'll be able to use it more often. Winston! Of course the patch note's not here, so I don't know what's all entailed. But when using Winston's bubble, it attaches to Winston. So there's at least that going for him. Wrecking Ball unleashes his signature moves that made him the champion of the Scrapyard Battle Arena. His claw maximum speed is temporarily increased when bouncing off walls. So when you run into something, it's easier to start going back in the other direction. Mines slowly move toward nearby enemies. I feel like there's another good change where they should implement this and then reduce the overall amount of time that they exist, because they exist for like 30 seconds. Maybe take them down like half their duration and then actually have this change in. I don't know if the grappling claw is a good change, so no opinion on that. Gravity gravitates. That's just science. Moves towards Zarya after deploying. So she'll deploy Graviton Surge, and then everyone caught in it will move towards Zarya. Self knockback on secondary fire scales with energy level. I feel like this isn't even a joke. I'd have to experience this in game because it's probably some ridiculous amount. But this seems like logical. Like this could actually be in the game. This is dumb. Alright, Ashe might be the most overpowered hero in the game mode, from what I've experienced. In order to be more accurate to the fantasy, dynamite fire now spreads between players. See, I don't know what happened. Fire spreads to nearby enemies up to 4 times, but I think when you catch on fire, you can be caught on fire multiple times. So if your teammates are around you, you'll all catch on fire 4 times and be dealt 4 times the amount of area effect damage. I think that's what's happening, and I assume it's a bug. But dynamite just like everyone dies. And you have just no chance. Ashen downloaded a software update upgrading Configuration Assault and allowing it to simulate his old configuration tank. While active, Tactical Grenade has a 0.5 second cooldown. This feels nice. This might make it to live. It wasn't too goofy because the grenade doesn't insta-kill. But I don't know if Bastion really needs a buff right now. But this wasn't like a extremely funny change. This was just like kind of nice. Cassidy can dodge anything with his cat-like reflexes. It's a bit rough on his spine though. Now costs regenerating stamina instead of having a cooldown. Okay, so what this looks like in game is that you have a bar, like Moira's energy, and when you roll, it's going to take it down to half. And when you roll again, which you can because there's no cooldown, it'll take it down to empty. I was able to roll 4 times, which I'm pretty sure is just another bug, because it took the same amount of time for the stamina to build back up. Like, it's empty after 2 rolls, but it can go negative somehow. Dodge all damage when combat roll is active. So you have invincibility frames, like Elden Ring or Dark Souls, where you don't take any damage while dodging. I feel like that's fine. And this is, like, fine. This is a joke. And this is a joke. Like, this is clearly a joke, but I mean, they're not that bad. This is, I assume, for balance reasons, so that way you can't roll, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer, roll, fan the hammer 4 times in a row. That makes sense. Echo now uses more of her fingers when shooting enemies. It now fires 2 additional projectiles, so she shoots 5. And damage per projectile decreased from 17 to 12, so it lost 5 damage. But 17 times 3 is less than 12 times 5. So she does more damage overall. This seems like not a funny change at all. This doesn't seem like an April Fool's change. This is just like a regular balance change, it seems like. Spamming a voice line for healing finally does something after everyone else has tuned you out. Sometimes Genji heals himself when requesting healing. Good joke. That's a good one. That's nice. I think this change could actually go through. This is really interesting. Hanzo spent many years mastering the bow and geometry to pull off his feat. Pull off this feat. It definitely has nothing to do with magic. I mean, you could say something like Sonic Arrow uses vibrations in the air, and then the storm arrows track the frequency of the vibrations, so they move toward it. But storm arrows ricochet towards Sonic Arrow. This is, so if you Sonic Arrow someone and actually hit them, you could use Storm Arrow and shoot at a wall, and it'll bounce around that wall toward the enemy that you hit. It's kind of interesting. Junkrat was a bit careless when packing his grenades, so now they spill out of his pockets whenever he knocks himself back. Drop grenades when launching yourself with concussion mine. Nice. This is... On the surface, I haven't seen this in game. On the surface, it doesn't seem like really an April Fool's change or a joke change. It just seems kind of like a balance update. We noticed a decrease in Mei players helping their team, quote-unquote, group up in spawn with Ice Wall. This is core to Mei's gameplay, so we added additional ice pillars to help facilitate it. Okay, so Ice Wall has 2 figurations still. It creates a literal, like, barricaded wall with 2 pillars, and then forward one, and then you have the wall. So it's kind of like a dome, with no ceiling. So there's protection from the left and right sides. And then the other configuration is a plus sign, which I guess the plus sign would be helpful for using it to get high ground, because you have more area to stand on the pillars. I don't really see how the plus sign is helpful to Mei, though. The larger wall, though, it's pretty interesting. Rocket jump sounds dangerous, But it is a viable means of travel when you can't afford enough fuel. So Farah, fuel decreased by 33%, so she has less fuel overall. So it's very difficult to stay in the air. But rockets deal no self-damage and have increased knockback. And it's like, this is just as much knockback as, say, just using your jet's ability, I think. Not using the rocket launcher and the jets at the same time. And then barrage fire can now be knocked back while barrage is active by enemies. It's kind of interesting. Barrage rockets also have knockback, just like the rocket launcher. So she doesn't kill herself anymore. After getting shot one too many times, Reaper no longer poses in place before teleporting, despite it looking very cool. Movement is no longer locked. So after activating the teleport, Reaper would put his arms together and across and then stand there. Now you can move around while you disappear. But I assume when you are actually in the teleported to location, you're still locked there for the same amount of time as normal. Which this might be just like a good change, the shadow step, actually. Another just like good change that doesn't seem like an April Fool's joke at all. Sojourn hasn't been performing quite up to our expectations. Ah! 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 After reducing her one-shot potential. Ha! To remedy this, we've added a very fair stun to her kit. So when she slides, enemies take 75 damage, are launched upward, and they get knocked down. So they get earth shattered and launched upward. Why leave it on the ground? Well, I guess this is closer to like an accretion. Why leave it on the ground when you can keep it in your pocket instead? Now attached to Soldier 76 when activated. This is one of the change that they had in the PvE, so I think this isn't coming to PvP. This is just the PvE change. But think about it. You know, Grillmaster 76, he uses a soda. So he opens a soda and then puts it in his pocket, which is kind of funny. As a safety measure, the translocator will forcibly separate solid objects that have been teleported into each other. Unfortunately, this process is also quite painful. Translocator now deals 120 damage in an area at the teleport destination. I thought that this was to everyone, including Sombra. It's not. This is only to enemies. Also keep in mind, it's a very small area of effect. And I think it has fall-off damage as well, because 120 is high, but when I've hit people with it, like I teleported onto a Widowmaker, she did not take 120 damage, but she was damaged by it. So I think that it has fall-off similar to Junkrat's concussion mine. So you have to be pretty accurate with intentionally throwing the translocator into enemies. Which it's easier to throw now, and throws farther, and you can throw it more often. So this is actually a really good balance change for Sombra. It doesn't look like it on the surface, but it encourages Sombras to not leave their translocators on health packs, which isn't an optimal way to play her anyways, and to use your translocator as an actual movement ability like blink or recall, which it's way more effective at doing. So this is an overall good change to Sombra, although it's probably too much, but this is a good thought experiment. It turns out there was a setting on sentry turrets that lets them immediately target enemies when thrown. Symmetra estimates this change increases their efficiency by 32.33%. Repeating, of course. That's 98.99%. Because there's 3 of them. Why the 2? It's not quite double their efficiency? Okay. Okay. They can now target enemies while in flight. They have 60% damage resistance before sticking to terrain, so they're more difficult to destroy mid-air, and they target enemies while in flight. Yeah, this is like a joke. Me, I would give Symmetra her 6 turrets back, and then make it so only 1 turret can attach at a time, give turrets back their old HP and damage, and then make it so that enemies that are stuck by sentry turrets are revealed. But, whatever. We notice that Torbjorn lies a little too heavily on his turret to deal consistent damage. So you won't believe this one simple balance change that fixes that and makes him 1000% OP! Overload now causes Rivet Gun and Forge Hammer to ignite enemies, dealing 30 damage over time. This is awesome. Very fun change. Maybe the Forge Hammer igniting enemies might be... I don't know. Torb is in a good place right now, I think. But this is really fun. Tracer now leaves a vacuum when she recalls into the past. We're pretty sure this is how time travel works, and we'll be taking no questions. True. In terms of space-time, the space that she was in would not be occupied by anything and cause a pulling sensation. But in terms of just time travel, I don't know if that's how time travel works. Okay. This arming time is very dangerous. I don't know why they did this. Especially since Tracer's already really good. And I'm saying that as seriously as I can because this sounds like not an April Fool's change and like a real balance change. Like, why? This is really funny. And I've experienced being pulled in by the recall. And it's kind of interesting. Poisonous bullets don't work as quickly as normal ones do, but at least there's room for more counterplay. Headshots deal their damage over 3 seconds as poison, and Widowmaker can see them through walls. Okay, this seems like another like real balance change. This isn't even good for Widowmaker. Like, this is a nerf. In an April Fool's patch, they nerfed Widowmaker. And they buffed every single one of the other heroes and they nerfed Widowmaker in an April Fool's patch. That seems like something they're testing to actually bring into the game. I don't know. Why would they... Because it's funny. They would do it because it's just funny that Widowmaker gets nerfed and every other hero gets buffed. Turns out whatever is in those syringes hurts a lot more when applied to the forehead. This I assume is extremely broken. That's 150 damage. Headshots. I don't know what to say about this because this is one of the most boring changes, in my opinion, of all the changes they've made in this patch. So I didn't even get to try this out because it didn't seem like... This just seems like an overpowered balance change, not really like a fantasy fun kind of change, in my opinion. Rumor has it that Baptiste is the record holder for both high and long jump. So when you jump, you have more horizontal distance. Not less vertical, you just have more horizontal in general. So better mid-air mobility. And it scales with the charge amount, which that just makes sense. Hold jump after using it to keep on using it. I assume at the same charge amount, which is kind of funny. So he's a frog, just like Lucio. What a guy. Whipshot now whips you. Works better if you say whee while flailing about. Whipshot, Brigida is pulled towards the flail head. This is a really incredibly good balance change, I think. I think if Brigida doesn't hit anyone, she should have this change. It's really fun. It gives her a lot more mobility. But then again, Brigida is the strongest support besides Zenyatta right now, so. I love this change. This is amazing. I wish Kiriko had this normally. This is freaking amazing. Kanezaka is a big town, and Kiriko has lots of practicing to do. This change should help her get to where she needs to go in a timely fashion, especially during rush hour. Swift Step. Range increase from 35 to 350 meters. This is 10 times the distance as before. And the cooldown now scales with distance traveled. I was playing Lijiang Tower, Control, or the control room, with the wrecking ball stick in the middle. Oh shoot, they all have that. The inside. It's inside. And my wrecking ball was on the enemy team's mega pack by their spawn, and Kiriko can swift step there from your spawn room. It's a 14-second cooldown when I did that. But, I mean, that's just like a really good change. Love that. Nerf Suzu. Well, don't nerf Suzu, just like get rid of the stupid intangibility. It puts something else. We were alerted that Soundwave was able to knock back entire heroes. Why does this sound like a transformer? But couldn't do anything to projectiles. We've corrected this logical inconsistency. Okay, I tried this. It doesn't last long enough for you to like feel it. I think I deflected Sojourn's railgun though. I mean, it's just a 3-second, extremely brief Genji deflect. This isn't broken because it feels extremely hard to do. But I mean, you could reflect ultimates like Graviton Surge, I assume. I don't think this should get added to the game because it's just not needed for Lucio. Our stats show that the Battle Mercy playstyle isn't as common as we hoped. Alright, she has 100 more ammo, and the projectile speed is insane. This is faster than Hanzo's arrows, by the way. Hanzo's arrows were 110, and the developers thought that was too fast, and he was hitting shots too consistently. That's when Hanzo was better than Widowmaker for a little bit. And this is faster than that. You know that random mob that killed you from across the map? That was 100% intentional. Biotic orbs follow Moira's every command, though they only understand stop and go. Pressing the ability stops it and starts him. I mean, this just seems like a fun experimental change to try out. This doesn't really seem like a fantasy April Fool's kind of change. It's kind of like lame. This is awesome. Zenyatta calls this technique the flying kick, but since he's always floating, should it just be called kick? It launches Zenyatta in his facing direction when used in the air. I thought this was he's in the air and he kicks the ground and he goes up higher. No. When you jump, you kick, you get a boost in the direction you're looking. What a champion. Alright, well that's going to be all for this patch notes. That's everything we got here for the limited time arcade game mode. I'll be seeing you guys in game.